Great, so I'm going to get going. My first speech is going to be about literature, specifically literary prizes. So I hope you have the vocab in front of you. It's going to be really helpful. Okay, I'm going to start. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about literary prizes, specifically some particular controversies that surround these prestigious awards. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Anglophone book world, so the English-speaking world of books. It's an extremely vibrant community that I've started to pay attention to over the last few years. And I was made aware of the fact that there was a particular controversy last year in an award called the Man Booker Prize. This is a prize that's specific to the UK. It's for authors published in English in the UK. The authors don't have to be from the UK or only published in the UK, but they have to be published in the UK. And the controversy was manifold. So there were many aspects of this prize giving that were particularly unusual, shall we say. So the first aspect that was unusual was that the jury, even though this was against the rules, decided to award this prize to two authors. And the first author was Margaret Atwood with her novel The Testaments. Some of you may have heard of the novel The Handmaid's Tale. It became a TV series fairly recently. And The Testaments is the long-awaited sequel to this book. And the second author that won is a rather unknown author, a British woman called Bernadine Evaristo. And she won the prize for her novel Girl, Woman, Other. I have a copy of it right here. So the jury members decided, even though they were told they had to pick one winner, that they just couldn't choose between these novels, and they had to pick both. And this was especially controversial because the second facet of the controversy was that Bernadine Evaristo is the first Black woman to ever win the Man Booker Prize since it started. Only 4 Black women authors have ever been shortlisted out of around 300 books that have been shortlisted over the years. So this was a huge achievement for her, and she was kind of trendsetter in this regard. But many people thought, because Margaret Atwood is so well known, she is so prominent in the literary landscape, that she would just completely overshadow Bernadine Evaristo's achievement. And actually, if you Google Man Booker Prize 2019, The Testaments by Margaret Atwood is the first result and the only result in the top of Google. So perhaps those criticisms were justified, that choosing two authors, one of whom was so well known, that would kind of upset the balance a little bit. Another third reason that this was such a controversy was that after the prize was awarded, one of the jury members who was judging the prize wrote an article that was very controversial. She wrote an article saying that her and the other members of the jury couldn't not give the award to Margaret Atwood because she was so well known, she was so accomplished, she'd written so many wonderful books. And this was completely unacceptable to many people because the Man Booker Prize is supposed to be just about one specific book. They're supposed to judge the merits of that one book. And the publishers of certain authors who were on the shortlist, such as the author Lucy Ellmann, were completely shocked because Lucy Ellmann is a debut author. She's never written any books before. And how could she possibly compete with someone like Margaret Atwood, who's written over 30 books in her lifetime? In fact, she's already won the Man Booker Prize in the past. So they were extremely outraged by this turn of events. Now, this isn't the only literary prize that has been subject to controversy. There has also been controversy linked to the Nobel Prize for Literature. And there have been so many scandals over the years on particular awards, people thinking that so-and-so shouldn't have won the award. But I'll just give a couple of examples. So first of all, in 2016, the Nobel Prize for Literature was awarded to Bob Dylan. Some of you may know, may have heard of Bob Dylan. I'm sure most of you have. He's an extremely famous songwriter, lyricist, and some would argue poet. And his being awarded the prize sparked a fierce debate about the meaning of literature, what constitutes literature, what is and isn't considered literary. As I mentioned, Bob Dylan writes song lyrics. Many people would argue that this is poetry. For example, Leonard Cohen was fully in favor of Bob Dylan winning this prize. But opponents argued that it was completely ridiculous to give him the prize. He doesn't consider himself a writer in the sense of literature. He's a singer and songwriter. And they considered it a dumbing down of the prize, and that it was stretching the bounds of literature too far. Further back in the past, in 2010, there was a controversy because of the award being given to Mario Vargas Llosa. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. And he was criticized for his extreme right-wing political views. And critics accused him of focusing more on politics than on literature in his writing, and that perhaps he wasn't the right person to be given an award celebrating his literature when it was so extreme. And another similar example is actually in 2019 as well. Peter Handke, who's an Austrian author, he was the joint winner of the Nobel Prize in 2019, and he's been really strongly criticized throughout his writing life for supporting the Serbian side in the Yugoslav wars. So he was quite in favor of a lot of people who ended up being convicted of war crimes. So he was most notably criticized by many people in the countries of Kosovo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania, Croatia, and Turkey, all of whom thought that his being awarded the Nobel Prize was completely unacceptable. So as you can see, I've laid out a few kind of controversies surrounding the world of literary prizes. These controversies have shaken some people's faith in the ability of these prizes to do what they're set out to do, to promote great literature, to promote great authors. But despite all their criticism, these prizes are definitely here to stay. Thank you very much.